This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions coming to you about the economy and an article I read from Real Estate and Investment Advice. I don't visit this site that often, but when titles like this capture my attention, I can't but not talk about it. Strongest economy ever. However, Americans receive more in benefits than they pay in taxes. And this begins off with, a tweet from Donald Trump. What the market wanted to hear from Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve was that it was beginning of a lengthy and aggressive rate-cutting cycle which would keep pace with China, the European Union, and other countries around the world. But if it's the strongest economy ever, then why would the need for aggressive rate cuts, which are emergency measures, be utilized to offset recessionary conditions? I love charts here. Average economic growth by cycle. You have the chart here showing this. And it's interesting how this plays out. Keep diving into this article. While the claims on an exceptionally strong economy rely heavily on historically low unemployment and jobless claims numbers, historically high levels of asset prices, and strong consumer spending trends, there's an underlying deterioration that goes unaddressed. For example, while reported unemployment is hitting historically low levels, there's a swelling mass of unaccounted individuals that have either given up looking for work or are working multiple part-time jobs. This is shown by those not in the labor force as a percent of the working age population, which has skyrocketed since the recession. So even though they're claiming low unemployment numbers, look at the labor participation rate. Has skyrocketed from there. Love the chart. Again, we'll put this link inside the description. The employment to population ratio will not still be at levels from the 1980s. Interesting. Another chart there. If employment was indeed as strong as reported by government agencies, then social benefits would not be comprising a record high of 22% of real disposable income. Let's say that again. Social benefits would not be compromising a record high of 22% of real disposable income. Here's the breakdown. 40 million Americans are receiving food stamps. An estimated 50% of the 330 million Americans in this country get at least one federal benefit, according to the Census Bureau. An estimated 63 million get Social Security, 59.9 million get Medicare, 75 million get Medicaid, 5 million get housing subsidies, and 4 million get veteran benefits. Without government large to say, many individuals would literally be living on the street. This chart above shows all the government welfare programs and current levels to date. While unemployment insurance has hit record lows following the financial crisis, Social Security, Medicaid, veteran benefits, and other social benefits have continued to rise and surge sharply over the last few months. With 1 in 5 of incomes dependent on government transfers, it is not surprising that the economy continues to struggle as recycled tax dollars used for consumption purposes have virtually no impact on the overall economy. In fact, in the ongoing saga of the demise of the American economy, U.S. households are now getting more in cash handouts from the government than they are paying in taxes. Repeat this again. U.S. households are now getting more in cash handouts from the government than they are paying in taxes. For the first time since the Great Depression, this of course at a time when the current administration is more enthralled with trying to find some universe where cutting tax actually increases tax revenue as a part of percentage of GDP, rather than actually cutting spending. In 2008, households received $2.2 trillion in some of the government transfer payments, which is more than $1.7 trillion paid in personal income taxes. Yes, but wages are now the highest ever. Fair enough. But if that were truly the case, then why are transfer payments as a percent of disposable personal income still hanging near its highs from the Great Recession? I love charts. Do a great job showing that here. In the strongest economy in history, Americans should be earning a bulk of their income from their labor rather than from government handouts. This is why, despite tax cuts, tax revenue growth has waned as the economy has remained weak. You simply can't create economic growth by recycling tax dollars. In short, Americans have the government, not private enterprise, to thank for their wealth growth. But of course, there are massifications to this. As noted in our recent discussion on the fallacy of the savings rate, maybe something you might want to click on there, the gap between the standard of living and real disposable income is shown below. Beginning in the 1990s, incomes alone were no longer able to meet the standard of living, so consumers turned to debt to fill the gap. However, following the financial crisis, even the combined levels of income and debt no longer fill the gap. Currently, there's almost a $2,654 annual deficit that cannot be fulfilled. Interesting. That gap explains why consumer debt is at historic highs and growing each year. Furthermore, if more households have the government to thank for their wealth, does that mean that those households are more inclined to re-elect politicians or pushing for more government handouts? The answer to that question is quite obvious if you look at the candidates currently running for president on the Democratic ticket. The bottom line is that America can grow its way back to prosperity in the back of social assistance. The average American is fighting to make ends meet as their cost of living rises while wage growth largely remains stagnant. This brings us to the hard truth. The budget deficit is set to grow over the next few years as interest payments alone absorb a chunk of the tax revenue. This comes at a time when that same dollar of tax revenue only covers entitlement spending as 75 million baby boomers begin their migration to into the social safety net. The call by the American people at the last election was a mandate to reduce the size of government and spending. However, that has fallen on deaf ears and weak stomachs. The current electorate is log jammed by personal agendas as the White House elected to cut taxes, increase defense spending, and exasperate the crony capitalism which currently plagues the country. By the way, the only other time government income support exceeded taxes paid was during the Great Depression from 1931 to 1936. Strong economy, however, hardly, but it could be. Today we have the ability to choose our battles, make tough choices, and restore the economic balance for future growth. However, 800 years of history tells us that we will fail to make those choices, and at some point those choices will be forced upon us. Well said there. Put the link inside the description. Encourage you to read this article. Click on some of the links that they have here from their past articles. Really pointing stuff here. And this to show you that we're living in different times. Never before since the Great Depression has government social benefits been more than wages and more than real disposable income. This video has been of any value to you. Please subscribe, leave some comments. Until my next video, I'm out.